Good morning, everybody. How is everyone doing today? We are here on week 11th of Ben Franklin's Virtues. So I'm going to try to share here what we're doing. And I think it's great because this way more people can be reached. Now, as you can notice, we started a little late, but I don't know if you noticed too, Facebook was down. So I thought it was my computer. I thought it was the connection, but it was not the connection or the computer. It was actually Facebook.
We are here on week 11. Now, as you can notice,
let me share this. And hold on one second, everyone. Share. Let me copy the link, go to my own. And I like to share because why not? If you see something good, we should always share. I'm waiting for everyone to be joining because everyone probably thought that we would not be having today since I was not here at 8:30. But I can assure you that I tried everything possible that I could, and it was just not working. So let's get to it. We're going to start with Ben Franklin's 11th virtue. Let's start up. Let me give you just another minute for some more people to join, because some people may not be aware of it. Okay, so 11th virtue. Ben Franklin devised 13 virtues, and these are virtues that, of course, they're not solid, they're not for everyone, they're not something that was created by any group of psychologists or anything like that. He decided to create 13 virtues that he would be going by those virtues. He would be really checking himself and how he was doing in those virtues. And he would always, of course, his goal was to become a more moral person, a person that would contribute to society, a person that would really have not a feudal life, a life that he would go back and say, well, really, I haven't done anything, I haven't progressed. He really wanted to check himself and progress in his own sense of accomplishment in his life. And some of the things he believed that would hinder his progress. So some of the virtues, he decided that I really have to check with me. I have to really check weekly and on a weekly basis for me to see if these things, if they're hindering my progress or if I'm actually doing okay on all of them. Today's week 11 of 13, so we only have 2 more after that. And we're going to start to talk about tranquility. Now, tranquility is a topic that, hey, we're all interested because we all want to be the serene person, the person others like to come to, the person that doesn't lose their temper, a person that would see things and step back and not have a temper. Remember, the very first virtue was temperance, which is that middle ground. It's that, you're not a tempered, a bad-tempered person, right? You know your temperament. You know the scale of 0 to 100, and to never go beyond what you can handle. So tranquility is not much different. Of course, it has a lot to do with how you deal with the stressors in your life. It has to do, let me just make sure that this is working. Okay. It has to do a lot with your management of anxieties. We all have anxiety. There's not one human being on earth that doesn't go through an anxiety phase. Why? Because we were built on having anxiety as a matter of survival. If we were just a happy-go-lucky, not an anxious thought in the world, well, we would be eaten by lions way back then, and dinosaurs and all of that stuff. Of course, I said dinosaurs. I don't know why, but we, of course, would not be existing even for the law of evolution. We need some anxiety to keep us away from committing dangerous acts. So that's why that is built into us. So our senses, our biological being would respond to that sense of danger. So back in the day, if a wolf was running after you, or if you heard a wolf, Your eyes would, your pupils would dilate because you need better eyesight to see where the dangers are coming from. Your heartbeat and your whole body would tense, and it would be ready to either fight the wolf or run. So your whole body would react to that stressor. The problem is today we didn't kind of let go of the thought that there probably aren't any wolves in New York and Virginia and in Washington D.C. Well, some kind of wolves, right? But there aren't any wolves after you. There's really not many imminent dangers that you need to be so stressed and so anxious about. And that is the problem when you live with the lack of tranquility, when you live with this thought that there is always an emergency, there is always something that's about to happen to you. And sometimes we think that that's unfair. And we say, well, how can I be born in a world full of anxiety in sometimes specific areas? The Spirit's book, and I love the question on the Spirit's book. One of the questions when Kardec asks if, in a way, he's asking, do we foresee the things that are going to happen to us once we are incarnate, once we are, so in eroticity, that means when it's that period that we're not on flesh, right? And in a soul, let's say we're in a soul state, we have a whole planning. We have an entire team that plans and helps us to establish what is the best place and the best body and the best way for us to be reincarnated on this planet that would really serve as the best tests that we are capable of passing, as well as atonements that we have to, let's say, reparations. So nothing is, God doesn't play with cards and say, oh, you took this card, you live there. Or better yet, Einstein says that God does not play dice with people. Nothing is as a matter of luck. There's no such thing. So there's a whole beautiful planning, and Kardec is very clear about that. And the answer is actually when he asks if we have any kind of control in situations that we're going to be born to. Well, the answer is so clear because the spirits will tell us that we actually choose. We actually choose the kind of trials and even the places that we are going to be born. Of course, there are exceptions. There are compulsory births, but we're not talking about this. We're talking about the general population. Most of us actually choose, and we have a very big participation on the kinds of trials that we're going to be going through. So if we are to be born in a place that has a higher anxiety surround, maybe in a place that has war, maybe in a place that has a lot of people that you have a lot of conflicts with, well, it's really beautiful to know that we had a great participation in choosing that place, because that place is what is good for us. That place is what is going to be teaching us, that will be helping us to progress in our choices morally and in any other way. So why Tranquility from Ben Franklin? Because Ben Franklin, if we see his history, he was a man that always chose to stop, take a step back, and act. He seldom acted in a chaotic, panicky way. And that's a very virtue that he valued, because he knew that even though there was tons of chaos, I mean, he lived in a time of war. He lived in a time where he's English, but he comes back to America, then he goes to France, then he goes. So he had to deal with a lot of people from a lot of different cultures. So he had to keep, let's say, his cool. He had to keep tranquility as one of his core virtues. And so do we. We know that panic is the worst enemy to any decisions. We have to, someone just said, love that, stop and take a step back. Absolutely, Beth just brought that up. And absolutely, every time that we have to make a decision, when I ask one of my friends or someone at the center, and even if they want to work at the center to do a job, I don't expect an answer right away. I always tell people, you know what? go consult with your best advisor. And you know who that is? The pillow. The best advisor, I usually say, it's your pillow. Because if you sleep on it, if you say a prayer and you ask the spiritual guides to actually guide you, because we have such trouble listening, right? In this world that is so noisy, we pray to God for what we want, but when He answers us, we have an immense difficult level of difficult listening to His answer. So pray not for God to listen to you, because He does. He knows what you want before you pray for. But pray that you have the time and the calmness and the tranquility to listen to what He has to answer to you. I love that whole idea. So when you pray for something, give yourself moments of tranquility so God can also speak to you, and your good mentor, your spirit friends that are there trying to influence you to take the right path, they can reach communication, the right communication to you. Because if you're always in a state of anger, of anxiety, of I don't know, of jealousy, of all kinds of things, it's very hard for them to find the right field to guide you, to tell you. We did this yesterday in our group. I asked everyone to try to say something good or give a great advice to one another. And the other person, I asked for them to shut their ears and start saying blah, 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 and yelling. It's impossible. You can try to say the best thing to someone, but if they have no ears of hearing, remember, Jesus had said that before, eyes of seeing, ears of hearing. Because if you're not in a field of tranquility to hear, the message is really, there's no conduction to you. So that's one thing. I always do like to take a step back, go to my advisor, my white advisor, which is the pillow, and that sometimes could be a red advisor or a flower advisor, but go lay down on it and wait for the next day. And usually, it never fails for you to say a prayer for guidance as to whatever decision you're about to make. Because sometimes in our sleeps, we can have perhaps more tranquility than we do in our day-to-day. Panic is never the answer. And we know that if a building catches fire, if anything happens, the worst thing you can do is to panic. And panic is really the overwhelming stress that is created by all the stressors. And if you don't have time to breathe and logically and calmly think as to what you're going to do, where is the exit on the building when it's catching fire? Yelling and crying, and that's going to create more smoke into your lungs, right? But when you remember, stop, drop, roll, or when you remember, I have to go lower myself, let me get some water, and surround myself with a sheet or a towel of water. Let me go down where the smoke rises. So let me try to stay down, and let me follow the little lights and follow the exit sign. There's always a leader, and that's why leadership is so important. And that's why even in Spiritist centers, we have leadership, because the leader is supposed to keep the situation at peace, tranquil. Sometimes in studies, sometimes in our kids who are listening, people who are listening and are in college or are in debate teams and all of that. I always say when someone comes to the center and they go participate in a study, and every now and then you have someone that likes to debate the question. We're studying a book on Joana de Angelis or Chico Xavier, and then Chico has or Emmanuel has said something, and someone would like to rebut that, and they would like to say that is not right, and I don't agree with that. And I always say, in studies, we're not here to debate, we're here to study. So we should maintain our studies tranquil, full of participation, but never chaotic. And it's not a place to debate. If you agree to study something, then you're agreeing to partake in receiving knowledge from that book. Otherwise, you can choose to have a debate team and debate different aspects. Or if you don't agree, you can ask, where is the source of that information? How does that information make sense? So you're not there to create chaos. And we maintain that very seriously, at least in our center, to not allow people to tumult, to create doubts and questions. On the opposite, it's not what I'm saying that they can't ask questions. Of course we can, but not in a sense of disrupting the study. And I hope you all are understanding what I'm saying. So we need to keep a place tranquil. We need to keep our hearts tranquil. When you go home and you walk into your house, is it a sense of tranquility that you get? Or is it a state of, oh my goodness, I just left work and now I have to deal with this? We talked last week about cleanliness, of keeping, and this is not me, this is Ben Franklin who devised these virtues. And he was way smarter than I am. So I kind of think that he really had a reason for devising those 13 virtues. And when he says, keep everything clean, keep everything organized, because he knew his very next virtue would be tranquility. Coincidence? I think not. It's impossible to be and have tranquility in a place where physically it's chaotic, it's dirty. It's very hard to achieve that. What about worrying? Well, how to be tranquil when something big is going on in your life? Well, I have two choices. I always kind of bring it up to people. If there is something you can do about your problem, then maintain calmness, because there's something you can do about it. Then you're going to do it. You're going to find the right path. There is a solution. So keep tranquility, because panic has never solved anything. Once you're tranquil, you will find a solution. If there is a solution, you will find it. But you will find it by being tranquil. Now, if there is no way out, then you should remain tranquil, because now you know that door has closed. There is absolutely nothing you can do about it. So why panic? There is no way for that to be done. So if you have a problem and you say, well, that job does not accept people who are five foot tall. I'm 5 foot tall. There is absolutely nothing I can do to be taller than 5 foot. Then I have to remain tranquil and look for a whole different job as to where they will accept people that are 5 foot tall. Now, if I'm applying for a job that takes people of all heights, but I didn't study, or I'm not sure if I'm going to get it, the best way to get it is to remain calm, to do the parts that I know and I have power to do it, and then apply for the job and keep my calmness. People are easy to talk to when they're tranquil, when they're calm. That gives them a sense of they are okay with themselves. And others want to have people that are, I would say, confident about what they're doing. Last thing I wanted to talk about, in Spiritism, we always talk about this. People come into a Spiritist center a lot of times because of pain. They're going through some kind of pain, they're going through doubts, and they come in. What happens? They get better. Almost always, we hear the same thing. And then what happens? They go away. They leave. They come, they listen to lectures, they get the passes, the spiritual treatments, everything that your center may offer. But then few of those that will stay and become that foundation. Why do we want a foundation of something that's collapsible, right? On the streets, so many people are collapsible because people not always will be there for you. They move, they change friends. So sometimes we deposit all our happiness, our tranquility, our peace on people, which I usually think it's not a good idea. But when you deposit that on your own spiritual tranquility, when Jesus in the Sermon of the Mount, when he says, be peaceful, bring peace, be yourself, pacify. That is what he's saying about the spirit is the one that has to be pacific, pacified, peaceful, all of the, pieces of that. And where do I do that? Usually in a Spiritist center is a great idea, because you're not there just to deal with your pain, but you're doing something for your spirit, for you to actually grow spiritually, to understand this peace that Jesus so much said when he said, my peace is not of this world, not this physical world. It's a peace in the spirit. So you want tranquility, be persistent on your studies, be persistent on the things that bring you peace. I find that going to classes, that going to prayers, that going to um, be together with my friends at the Spiritist centers always brings me peace, always brings me a sense of tranquility. So why would I leave when things are good? That's when I want to stay, to be a preventive type of medicine, right? We can take medicine when things are bad, or take your vitamins before, so you don't get to that point. Now the last thing that I want. So anyway, pay attention to what you want in life, and then pay attention to what you're doing in life. You want tranquility, but you're living in a place full of chaos. And sometimes our job or our situation requires us to be and live or work in a place that is chaotic, but you don't have to be. See, chaos can't infiltrate us if our sense of being is a tranquil one, right? Most of the people, Mother Teresa, she lived in, my God, Calcutta. It was a place of voices, of loudness, of pain, of scream, yet she kept her tranquility. Gandhi in India as well. There was war happening. We look at Ben Franklin. He kept his tranquility when there was civil war, when there was all kinds of wars going on. And he kept his cool. He took a step back and he thought about plans. And we see how great he did at that. If you want something, but you're doing something else, it's incompatible. It'll bring you, it'll really bring you frustration and depression even. So you want tranquility, work on things that will bring you tranquility. There is a triad, there's a cognitive triad of anxiety. And anxiety is really the opposite of tranquility, right? There's a triad. So the first thing is the view of the self. How do you see yourself? If you see yourself as a person who's vulnerable, then you're always going to be anxious. Because if I'm vulnerable to anything, oh my goodness, I'm vulnerable to an accident, I'm vulnerable to being fired, I'm vulnerable. You have this view of vulnerability that will always be stressing you if you think that you're vulnerable. Another view is the view of the future. If you're always seeing the future as uncertain, oh my goodness, I'm not sure if I'm going to be a good mother. I'm not sure if I'll be able to purchase that vehicle that I need to go to work. I'm not sure if I'm going to be at this job for much longer. They're doing layoffs. I'm not sure if I'm going to. So if you're always looking at the future with this view of uncertainty, that also will bring a lot of anxiety. And the last one is the view of the world. If you're always looking at the world as a hostile place, the world is always in chaos, the world is always about to end and explode, and all of this is happening. And a lot of that we get from the news, right? Everything is horrible happening out there. Well, that's also going to bring a lot of stress and anxiety. But with Spiritism, we know the view of the self is what? This is not Debora. This is just who this spirit is going through in this lifetime. So once I change that view and I say, I am a spirit in progress, I am a daughter of God, I am someone who is very loved, someone whose only fatality is happiness, and I will walk through my own free will to achieve that. Then I stop seeing myself as a vulnerable being. I start looking at myself as, wow, I am someone who is actually a spirit, someone who is immortal. I am never going to die. I am always going to get better because I'm always going to have been learning lessons. And I'm always going to be understanding how love is always the answer. So I'm not vulnerable. Anything that happens to me in some way has been my choice. And that is beautiful because now you have the choice to change what your future will be. Chico Xavier said, you cannot go back and start a new beginning, but you can always start now and have a different ending. If my view of the future is no longer uncertain, then I understand that I have power over my future. It's no longer uncertain. And we all know that we are all created simple and ignorant. That is on the Book of the Spirits. That is in everywhere in the codification of Kardec. If I'm born simple and ignorant, that is a beautiful thing because I begin like everyone else, even Jesus, of course. All creatures begin the same. We all have the same starting line. And then we have this beautiful thing called free will that we decide how we want to run this beautiful way to reach the love of God. Oh, but why God doesn't create everybody perfect and happy? Where's the merit? You can't understand happiness unless you have understood what pain is. Of course, we can choose to make good choices so we don't experience the same amount of pain. But pain is also a teacher. So once I see myself as my future is not uncertain, I will be with the Father at some point. Then you don't have that sense of chaos. You begin to be a more tranquil person in a more tranquil place. And lastly, the view of the world. The world is only passing through. We know we're at times of transformation, and it always has been. There's always been cycles. There's always been ice age. There's always been different animals living on the earth. There's always been detachment of different, I guess, plates, tectonic plates. There's always Africa at one point was glued to South America, and all of this, and all of it was at one point. So we know that the world itself is always changing. So we don't have to think that the world is a hostile place. There are so many good things. There is so much love in the world. There is people that, even an enemy, if you sat down with them and you talk to them a little more, you will find commonalities. You will find that they have goodness in them. And that is up to us to really understand and look at the world with the light in our eyes. As Jesus would say, those who see goodness, their whole bodies will reflect light. I'm just paraphrasing, but that's pretty much it. When you are good, when you see good in people, in the world, you will begin to experience full tranquility. That's why Jesus never got to be a person full of chaotic feelings. He was always tranquil, even dealing with people at the worst time of his life, as to being on a cross, as to being spat on, thrown rocks on, as to being called all kinds of things. He kept tranquility because he saw the good in people. And even at the cross, he says, Father, forgive them because they know not what they're doing. It's just ignorance. Friends, thank you. I hope that I brought to you a little bit about Ben Franklin's 11th virtue, which is tranquility, and we can really put this in our own lives to work. And I hope that we become more and more a calm, a tranquil person, not on the outside, not on the facade, not on a mask that sometimes we have to put up, but internally in our spirit. Thank you. And I'll see you on next Sunday. Sorry, but Facebook was not working this morning. And I found out that it was in general. Everybody's Facebook, WhatsApp, all kinds of things was in maintenance or something happened. So I was here at 8:30, but we could not log in. But I hope it was worth anyway. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful Sunday. God bless everyone.